In this video, I am going to discuss about mold core, characteristics of mold core, types of mold core print and chaplets. So first of all, what is the purpose of a mold core in sand casting mold? Mold core are basically used for producing hollow casting. See, core are used in a sand casting mold to make holes, russes, projections, undercut and internal cavities. So these are the main purpose of a mold core in sand casting mold, which is used for producing holes, russes, projection, undercut and internal cavities. See, basically core is a refractory body which is set inside the mold cavity before the mold is closing. Core is a refractory body or made up of refractory material which is set into the prepared mold before closing. So the core acts as an obstruction which is positioned inside the mold and which will not permit the molten metal to fill the space occupied by the core, and gradually a hollow structure will be formed. So during casting process, when the molten metal is flowing inside the mold cavity, the space occupied by the mold core is not filled, and gradually there will be a hollow casting will be produced. So the main application of mold core in a sand casting mold is producing a hollow casting. So next one, what are the characteristics of core sand? See, we have already discussed about in types of sand. One classification of sand is core sand. Core sand is silica sand mixed with core oil. Okay, so what are the characteristics of a core sand? See, there are mainly three characteristics for a core sand. It should have high refractory strength. The surface of the core should be very smooth and should have high collapsibility. So these three are the main characteristics of a core sand. Core sand should have high refractory strength. It should have a high smooth surface, and core sand should have high collapsibility. See, core sand are usually subjected to severe thermal and mechanical condition because they are surrounded on all sides by molten metal. During sand casting process, the entire core is surrounded by molten metal. So it is subjected to most severe thermal and mechanical condition. So core sand that should have sufficient strength to withstand the temperature and mechanical effects. So core sand should have a high refractory strength. That's the first point or first characteristic of a core sand. It should have high refractory strength and should withstand high temperature of molten material. And second point is, it should have a smooth surface which always ensure smooth flow of molten material over the surface of the core. The core should have a smooth surface. The molten material that should flow easily over the smooth surface of the mold core. That's the second characteristic of a core sand. And third one is, it should have high collapsibility. Mold core should have high collapsibility. So that's a very important point regarding mold core. If the collapsibility is less, there is a chance that crack will be produced in the casting. So what is the importance of collapsibility, high collapsibility? See, during the solidification process, the casting will shrink. Volumetric contraction will take place, that is known as shrinkage. So during the shrinkage, if the mold core is not break, due to the stress, high stress, the crack will be produced in the casting. So mold core should have high collapsibility in order to avoid the solidification, shrinkage, crack during the solidification problem. So these are the three important characteristics of a mold core. It should have a high refractory strength, first point. It should have a smooth surface to ensure smooth flow of molten material, and it should have high collapsibility. Okay. Next one, types of mold core. See, there are basically two types of mold core, green sand core and dry sand core. Green sand core are made up of green sand which have relatively low strength being made of green sand, and water is the only binding agent. Whereas dry sand core are made up of sand and special binders which develop strength when baked. So the basic classification of mold core is the green sand and dry sand cores. Okay. Then there are 5 types of mold core. First one horizontal core, second one vertical core, third one balanced core, fourth one hanging core, and fifth one drop core. So these are the classification of mold cores. So first one horizontal core. See, this is the figure of horizontal core. See, this is the figure of the horizontal core. Horizontal core is placed horizontally in the mold. It is very common in foundries. It is usually positioned along the parting line of the mold. So horizontal core that are usually placed in horizontal direction in the sand casting mold. It is usually placed in the parting line of the mold. So this is the horizontal core. This is the horizontal core and this is the sand casting mold. This is cope portion. And this is a drag portion of the sand casting mold. This is drag portion of the sand casting mold. So horizontal core are always placed in the horizontal direction in the sand casting mold, commonly in parting line. Okay. Then vertical core. See, vertical core are usually positioned in vertical direction in the mold. See, the vertical core that will be placed in vertical direction inside the sand casting mold. So this is the vertical core and this is parting line and this is the mold cavity. Two ends of the core rest in core seat in cope and rack. Two ends of the core are rest on the core seat in the cope and rack. See, in the cope and rack there is core seat will be provided. So this is the cope seat in cope portion and this is the core seat in drag portion. So the end of the core will be usually rest on the core seat in the cope and rack portion of the sand casting mold. So that is the vertical core. And third one is balanced core. See, seeing this figure, what is the application of the balanced core? This is a figure of balanced core. Seeing the figure, what is the application of balanced core? See, balanced core are usually used to produce blind holes in a casting. See, this is a blind hole actually, not a through hole. This is a blind hole. This is the balanced core. This is balanced core. And this is a cavity. And this is the gating system. And this is cope portion of the sand casting mold. And this is drag portion of the sand casting mold. So what is the purpose of a balanced core? Balanced core are usually used to produce a blind hole in a sand casting. See, these core are usually placed in horizontal axis. Core is supported at one end only. The core seat should be sufficient length to prevent it falling into the mold. So in the case of balanced core, core is supported at only one end. And the core seat, it should have a sufficient length to support the core. Otherwise, the core will be fall into the mold cavity. So that's the concept of balanced core. Next one is the hanging core. See, this is the hanging core. This is hanging core. You can see the saturated portion is the hanging core. Then what is the purpose of a hanging core? See, hanging core are used if the entire casting is molded in drag portion of the sand casting mold. See, this is the casting. Okay, the entire casting is molded in the drag portion of the sand casting mold. This is core portion and this is drag portion. In this case, the entire casting is molded in the drag portion of the sand casting mold. And this is the hanging core, which is hanged in the cope portion of the sand casting mold. These cores are used when a cored casting is to be completely molded in the drag with the help of a single piece sold pattern. The core is supported above and hang into the mold. See, you can see that the core is supported above and hang into the mold cavity or mold. A hole in the upper part of the core is provided for the metal to reach the mold cavity. See, here a small hole is providing. What is the purpose of the small hole is through which the molten material will be flowing to mold cavity. So this is known as hanging core. Okay. And last one is the drop core. See, drop core is used when the hole which is not in line with the parting surface is to be produced at the lower level. See, what's the purpose of a drop core? You can see this is a drop core and this is the core portion and this will be drag portion. So this is core portion and this is drag portion. So what is the purpose of a drop core? See, the drop core which is used to produce a hole in the casting, but it is not in line with the parting surface. It is just a distance below the parting surface. In that case, drop core will be used. So this is the mold cavity and this is the portion of core that is projected into the mold cavity. So this will be, there will be a blind hole will be produced or undercut will be produced. So drop core are used for producing a blind hole which is certain distance below the parting surface. Okay. So these are the classification of mold core. Very important topic. We have 5 classification of mold core: horizontal core, vertical core, balanced core, hanging core and drop core. Okay. So next one is core print. What do you mean by core print? Very important topic. What do you mean by core print? See, core print are region added to the pattern which is used for producing mold core, mold cavity, and this region is used for producing a seat for supporting the core in the mold cavity. See, what's the purpose of the mold core? See, mold core are projection on a pattern which is used for producing mold cavity. And what's the purpose of the projection is which is used for producing a seat for supporting the mold core that is placed inside the mold cavity. See, this is a split pattern. You can see this is a split pattern. See, this is the core print. So this core print which is used for producing a core seat inside the mold cavity, and what's the purpose of that core seat is which is used for supporting mold core inside the mold cavity. So core seat is a region added to the pattern core which is used to locate and support the mold core within the mold. Okay. Then what do you mean by chaplets? See, chaplets is a small metal insert or spacer used in mold to provide core support during casting process. See, these are chaplets. You can see these are chaplets. See, chaplets are small metal insert or a spacer which is placed inside the mold cavity which is used to support the mold core. See, usually these chaplets are same material as the casting. During casting process, due to the high temperature of the molten material, the chaplets will undergo melting and being a part of the casting. Okay, so that's the concept of the chaplets. So this is a sand casting mold. So this is core portion and this is drag portion. This is mold core and this is mold cavity and this is a parting line and this is the chaplets. Okay, so I am concluding this video. In this video, we have discussed about what's the importance of mold core in sand casting mold, what's the characteristic of mold core, what are the different types of mold core, and core print and chaplets. Okay, thank you.